All right, everyone, welcome to the weekend market wrap up. I'm actually going to bring the mic real close to my mouth. For those who've noticed, there hasn't been very many videos on the channel this week. That's because I have the daycare plague, as we call it around here. Charlie brought something home from school and has infected the entire family. So this one's probably going to be a little bit quicker, but we still have a lot to get through when it comes to the market. So, as always, for those who don't know, we just take a look at crypto, FX, the underlying stock market, the whole shebang to try to figure out what happened this week, what's going to happen in the next week. After this, when the market closes, I run all of my strategies and algorithms. That comes through probably on the weekend to Stats Edge Pro members. And man, we got some bangers this week. I wish they were all like this week, right? We got OMER at 583 and just absolutely rocketed up to 1040, where I'm actually going to look to exit this position on the close today. Amazing trade. And we also had Lunar as well, triggered around here, chopped around for a number of days. Thursday and Friday ended up being great for this name. So again, they're not all going to work like this. You can see all of the equity curves, win rates, loss rates, average gain, average loss. I publish all of that data over at statsedtrading.com if you want to check that out. But we always have to start with Bitcoin. It's just kind of what we do around here. This cup and handle was talking about it for a longest time. I mentioned that I'm scaling out of this position as it gets to 100,000, just because I see so many people saying they're going to sell at 100,000. I think it could just blow through the 200,000. If it does, shucks, sucks to be me. But I've just heard so many people saying, I'm going to sell at 100,000. I'm going to sell at 100,000. It makes me want to sell, between 95,000 and 99. I've just kind of been scaling out a little bit. Still holding some. I've got some Bitcoin away as kind of like a forever holding. So if it moves, that's great. But for the trade that I took that I mentioned to you guys at 50,000 and an addition at 70,000, I'm scaling out of most of that as things go. So it's very great to see, but it's one of those things we got to take a look at. So Bitcoin up today, almost at that 100,000 mark, Ethereum not moving. And we need to always kind of hammer this home because I've seen so many people calling me crazy that I'm buying Bitcoin and other people want to buy Ethereum because they're like, hey, I want to buy the laggard. It's more evidence that you want to buy the leader. Some other coins that I'm interested in, and I've mentioned this before, I'm watching the anchored view app from all-time highs across a lot of these coins as my kind of signal for whether or not it's a coin to take a look at. We recently got that in Cardano ADA, so I'm going to watch this for a number of days to see if it can hold this kind of maybe it rejects this $1 area, bounces for a while, hovers around this anchored view app. That's where I'm going to look to get involved if we break through. Dogecoin, same kind of thing. When it broke through, that was definitely the trade. Now we're consolidating around this kind of 40-cent area. So I'm going to watch that as well. If we break through that, I'll get involved in Dogecoin. This is one I've been talking about for a while. Same pattern. This is not the all-time high, but it's this major swing high right here. And the reason I'm looking at that one is because if we get through that and we get to all-time highs here, that's a $1.75. That's a 4x almost gain on that, which would be amazing. So we continue to hover around this anchored view app right here. Nice push from 25 cents. So it's all doubled off the lows here. So I'm watching this one for mana very, very closely. Into the traditional currency space, just another monster week. If we go to the 1 week in the dollar, just absolute beast. Now we've broken this area right here. But if we look at today, we broke and we put in this bit of a topping tail. So it'll be interesting to see if this topping tail is something to watch. We'll know that Monday or Tuesday. If we start to sell back below this level right here, I think I'm going to take a short in the dollar, which would be, buying the euro, buying the pound, buying some of these other currencies against this major high, because that would finally be an inflection point. Maybe we want to flush down a little bit before continuing higher. Gold was absolutely amazing. Sold off to this 52 or 55, 25 100 level. Sorry, that's the sickness brain coming out. I bought a little bit on a bounce. I was actually looking for some consolidation and to buy more. I didn't get that, and it kind of sucks. But all the way up to 2,700 just this week in a straight line. We look at the weekly chart on this, just a nice rejection off this lows. Again, I was thinking, and I may be right on this one, that this unwind in gold was essentially just saying, okay, now that the election's over and it's decisive, which is all I think the market cared about. Didn't care who won or who lost, just that it's over. We know who won. It's time to move on. You had that nice bounce there in gold. After you had that initial unwind of the risk off trade, now you've had this continuation. XAG USD, so we've had silver, can't get going. So the reason I'm highlighting this is just to show you that this just can't get going with gold rocketing. You would expect this one to fail. So or you expect this one to continue. So the fact that it's not making me think that I am going to look to short silver if we have some sort of a breakdown here because it just cannot get going the way that gold has. Just can't do it. Now looking at the dollar yen, this is starting to get, and I mentioned this last week, it's starting to get up to where the Bank of Japan intervened before. And if they're going to continue to defend this zone, this is an area that I want to start potentially piling into a short on this play. So as I talked about it, if we have this rejection in the dollar that I'm waiting for at that prior resistance area, then this is going to be my target because I know there's a bank on my side. It's always good to have the bank on the side if you can get it. Into the equity markets here, S&P 500 just really did not much at all. Sold off to this level, bounced from that level perfectly. Important to note though, the RSP, which is the equal weighted version of the S&P 500, so it's not as weighted to Nvidia, Tesla, the big names that are in there. All-time closing high, assuming, right, nothing happens 50 minutes till the end of the day, assuming nothing crazy happens here, all-time closing high potential at this zone right here. So just showing that it is some of these bigger names that are weighing us down, not so much the overall stock market. The underlying equity markets and individual equities are doing well. Just some of the big guys are lagging, and that's what's causing the overall index to lag. IWC, which is our microcap, is showing us the same thing, right? If we do MDY, which is midcaps, you can see all-time weekly closing highs in midcaps. So again, barring something crazy happening in the last 15 minutes, all-time weekly closing high in midcaps, obviously a bullish thing, showing that again, it just because some of the big guys are lagging, and that's showing up in the SP 500. That doesn't mean the stock market is weak. It just means that these particular names aren't doing as well as they could. URA, uranium, talked about this pinch going on here last week, how things were getting very tight for uranium. Nice breakout. So I'm going to watch to see if uranium can continue next week over this kind of $34 a share. That might be interesting for your SMRs, your NNEs, all these little uranium names, if this can get going. So now for my discretionary trade of the week. I do one of these discretionary trades every week. And then again, the StatsEdge Pro members get 30 symbols that have back-tested results going back to 1980, really focusing on the last 25 years. And what I'm looking for on this discretionary trade is this failure that we had in NVIDIA. If we click the earnings report that we had on this big candle right here, you can see an earnings surprise on EPS and an earnings surprise on revenue. So they beat on revenue, they beat on earnings. They talked about great things for the next quarter. Everybody was loving what was going on there. From a fundamental point of view or a story point of view, they couldn't have said better things. For anyone who knows me, knows that I don't care as a technician, right? What I care about as a technician is what is the market's reaction to that earnings. So this is the earnings candle, which it barely was able to close green. And now it's starting to look like it's potentially going to roll over here. So that is very interesting to me because that's going to potentially bring down a lot of the indexes and maybe some other stocks. So it's an interesting hedge for me to potentially short Nvidia, right? So what I'm going to look for is NVDS. We have this inverse Nvidia fund. So this is just an ETF that flips Nvidia. So when you own this, you're short Nvidia, a 1.5 to 1. So what I'm watching next week is if we break this downtrend line like this, somewhere around here. We don't need to be super precise with it. It's just something like that, and then that. So if we break this downtrend and start to push higher on NVDS, I think it's a pretty simple trade where I can look to get involved at this breakout. My stop can go below the swing low right here. And if I'm right and Nvidia is going to fall a little bit, then this is going to move up 1.5%, whatever that one is. So that's my game plan here, is just to a good way for me, I believe, to hedge against some of the long trades that I already have. If this kind of sell the news event for Nvidia is going to take place, I think it's a good simple trade to take. So that is my thinking of the markets for this week. As always, I appreciate you all coming by, and I encourage you all to go to statsedgetrading.com, check out StatsEdge Pro. A lot of people are very happy with what we're doing there. I thank you guys very much, and I will talk to you guys next week.